Time to start your engines and be part of the conversation. You can always ask the experts, Raffi and Dan Rosenberg, because it's now time for Clutch Radio. The show starts now.
So the important thing is you can always ask the experts.
You can always.
Like that's sometimes, not occasionally.
Yes, some experts don't want to be asked all the time.
No, but with us,
always.
you can always
ask the experts.
ask us, according to our voiceover announcer, Eric.
Now,
And welcome to Clutch Radio, highfalutin talk radio.
this is it.
If you want to be a little hoity-toity, it is Saturday, March 4th. It's the first show of March 2023.
And we are marching forth.
Oh, geez. March the 4th be with you.
Had to be said. And I see effective product placement by you, Dan. You are wearing
I'm wearing the Eridan Film Festival hat, which is available at eridanshop.com.
Indeed.
What if an expert really isn't an expert? Well, then don't ask them.
Yes. You
don't
want to
ask a non-expert.
You want to be careful. And anybody who tells you they're an expert, oftentimes they're not. You have to have someone else tell you. That's why we had our announcer tell you.
Right. It wasn't us.
No, it's not us. We are not claiming to be experts.
No. And yes, if someone, I love when people, they're like, oh, I'm an expert in this, or and they never know what they're talking about.
No.
It's like if you have to announce that you're an expert in something, then you're probably not. And like, on Facebook, there'll be people that be like, their name is comedian blank blank.
Yeah.
That's their name on Facebook. Do you have to put comedian in front of your name? Comedian Jerry Seinfeld is not a Facebook page, or comedian Rodney Danger. I mean,
well, some people would say, well, it's because they're not known yet as comedians. And I keep thinking to myself when I see stuff like that, I think, if people see you and hear you, eventually they'll figure out you're a comedian.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Seinfeld.
It's like people that get their medical degree or their PhD, they like to introduce themselves. I'm Dr. So-and-so, just in case it wasn't clear that I'm very intelligent. Someone else can introduce you as Dr.
So Mr. Evil, that's Dr. Evil. I didn't spend 6 years in evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank you. Like Jerry Seinfeld, when he gets announced, people are like, well, what kind of intro do you want? And he's like, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Seinfeld.
There you go.
It's like, what else do you need? They're there to see him.
That's right.
His name's, if your name's on the ticket, you don't need a big intro. So anyway, ask the experts, whatever you want to ask us today. Not that we're experts, but
we could circle this back, because it would almost be as ridiculous as car makers saying, ladies and gentlemen, the Miata sports car, or the sports car Miata.
Yes.
Because it's not necessary. You don't see sports car Corvette or Corvette sports car.
Eric says that I have to say comedian Dan Rosenberg, so I'm not confused with car salesman Dan Rosenberg. Thank you, Eric, who announced that you can always ask the experts. It's circling back around.
Yes, indeed.
And if you do have an expert, you should always ask them.
Right.
If you have an expert in front of you that if you have a friend who is an expert in something, don't reach out to them after you've done something.
Try to consult them before you do it.
Yes. So welcome to Clutch Radio. We've spent 5 minutes talking about absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Highfalutin talk radio. And the car business is making some weird shifts. I saw an article, and the headline was that the Z06 market is softening and the Corvette market is softening. And then you read the article, and it's like, because 2 cars did not sell on online bidding sites, one on Bring a Trailer,
right,
and one on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMuro's site. The one on Bring a Trailer is being sold as a brand new car from a Chevy dealer on Bring a Trailer.
Yeah.
And it said it got up to $75,000 over sticker price, and the dealer did not sell it.
Sounds like the market isn't softening. It sounds like the greed is heightening.
Yeah. And it makes me also think that that dealer just did that for publicity.
Probably.
And they probably set the, I mean, 75 over sticker and you don't sell it.
That's a lot of money.
Like why would Bring a Trailer even allow you to set a reserve that much over sticker?
Who knows? It could be that they made an argument that the market commanded a six-figure premium above MSRP. But, you know, one of the problems with these online auctions is not the auction platform itself, but it's the immediacy of the results, because you get two or three results and people start calling it a trend, because whenever you have access to data that's that immediate, experts emerge
Yes.
with proclamations so that they can get the biggest moment or surge or likes or whatever it is on the internet with their Instagram when they post something. The end is near, and so they thrive on that kind of statement. And the online auctions, because they're immediate and you can get results immediately, it can appear like, if you have two or three, like there might be a trend, when in fact somewhere in Illinois, some guy has just plunked down $95,000 on top of MSRP to buy a new Z06. So we don't know it, but it's happening.
Yeah.
And in a year from now, you can get any Z06 you want at MSRP or less, probably.
Yeah. Dan asks if they charge a fee to have a reserve. I'm not sure how the fee system works at Bring a Trailer.
So the way the fee system at Bring a Trailer works is the seller pays $99 to run their listing. They prepare all the photos, the videos, the description, etc. They're responsible for presenting documentation. If you're a dealer, you must present dealer documentation to show that you're following in your state, or you're conforming to state regulations regarding your dealer license. And then the buyer pays a 5% premium up to $100,000. So if you have a car that sells for $100,000, then the buyer pays $105,000. $5,000 goes to Bring a Trailer on a credit card draw, which is part of your agreement when you bid. And if your car sells for $200,000, it's only $5,000 as the premium. So that's one of the biggest draws to higher end cars on Bring a Trailer, because a standard auction, the seller will sometimes give up 5 to 8% to the house or to the auction house, and the buyer will pay 8 to 10% for the privilege of purchasing at the hammer price. So you can see how the numbers can add up really quickly. Now, some auction houses, if you have a very desirable car, they will negotiate down their seller premium so that they can get the car to their auction, because valuable cars will bring up the value of the entire auction. That's been proven time and time again. If you have a $3, $4, $5 million Ferrari to sell, that can be one of your headline cars, and you could sell that car at a reduced commission in order to get higher commissions on the regular cars.
All right. So here's the car in question.
Okay.
There's a 23 Z06 convertible 3LZ 70th anniversary edition.
Yeah.
So it's being sold by a Chevy Cadillac dealer in Connecticut.
Yep.
It is new. So a lot of people were complaining because they said, well, if I buy this, I get no warranty. Well, that's not true, because if you buy from a dealer, you do get the warranty. If you buy from another person with, I think it's a 1 year period, or maybe it's 12,000 miles, then you don't get a warranty, because that way that's how they're discouraging from flipping it. They won't pass the warranty on to the next person.
Right.
But this is a brand new one. There's your sticker. And it went for 146 is the sticker.
So it's a fully auctioned.
Yeah, this is pretty loaded. It got up to $222,000. The dealer chose not to sell it.
See, that's just crazy. Just crazy. And I'm sure people are commenting that it's crazy.
Yeah.
which, by the way, even though people will say, well, for $99, I can advertise my car and bring a trailer and have a great time. Well, technically, because of the way it's democratized, anybody can come on and comment and leave a comment about what they think of the final selling price, or the fact that it didn't sell. And when your car is $200,000 car, let's say, and it doesn't sell for 175 as the high bid, it's a pretty good argument that 175 is the market price. Now, it's not necessarily an accurate argument, but it's hard to get rid of the evidence that is the closing bid not reaching reserve. Now, it's entirely possible, though we don't know this for certain, but it's entirely possible the dealer had a buyer for this car already and wanted 225 or 230 or 240, or told them, I will sell this car to you for 250. And the person on the other end said, there's no way I'm buying it for 250. That's insane. You're gouging me. And the guy said, look, I'm going to put it on Bring a Trailer and I'll put the reserve at 250. If it doesn't sell for 250, I'll sell it to you for 5,000 above whatever it sells for on Bring a, or whatever it bids to on Bring a Trailer.
Yeah.
So essentially the dealer just proved that right now, this car is worth $225,000. And I'm adding the 5 because that's what a buyer would have to pay. It's not 220, it's 225 to actually close the deal.
Now, someone here says, let's be honest, the dealer probably had a stupid high reserve. They can now call around, or people will call them and let people know that it bid to 225 and Bring a Trailer, but they'll let it go for 215. They'll skip the fees to make a nice profit. They don't understand the fees.
Right.
They think the dealer's paying the fees. Now, if somebody has a credit card, they had to pay the $5,000 on their credit card. I mean, they had to pay the $5,000
right,
just to make the bid at this point.
Exactly.
So they could have had one of the salesmen bid, the 222, and it just sits there. And if one other person bids, they'll probably let it go.
Yes, you can unlawfully gamify Bring a Trailer, but I can tell you that Bring a Trailer has some pretty good internal systems for finding out. It's hard to hide, because if you have a name and a credit card, you can be found out. It's pretty easy to find out where you live, where you work, where you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that Bring a Trailer does this, but
they could.
And so you have to be careful. And the whole idea with an auction anyway is to be fair, to let the audience determine what the value of the vehicle is. And, putting people inside to bid kind of changes that. So we do see that in regular auctions, in house auctions or field auctions, where people are out and there are people bidding, and the auctioneer is up there, and there's this giant sea of people, and he starts on, I got 5,000 over here, now 6,000, now 7,000, now 7,500. Where are these bids coming from?
Nowhere.
Oftentimes they're pointing at the chandeliers in the room, and the term chandelier bids sometimes comes up, because then people think, wow, this car's getting a lot of action under 20 grand. I better get in before it hits 20 grand. And now you got real bids at 18, 19. And usually the auctioneer will know if they're real bids, and that's when he'll work the room, or he may get the owner to drop the reserve.
Now, here's the one on Cars and Bids that went up to 178, and this is a used one, 250 miles, being sold by an individual.
Okay.
It says seller type dealer, but it was a used car.
Yeah, and this one did not sell.
Also did not sell. 131 was the sticker on this one. It got up to 170. So this one got to 50 grand over. The other one got to 70 grand over. And neither sold. Yet this article was like, oh, the Corvette. By the way, we mentioned Corvettes 3 times. Good morning, Jake.
Jake, I'm sure, is going to have an opinion on this, but let's face it. Look, the reality of the modern car or supercar market is that people are familiar with having to pay a premium at the dealer. Now, what that number is has changed dramatically, because if you try to buy a Ferrari, if you and I were to run into millions of dollars overnight, and we were to go out and try and buy a Ferrari. Neither of us would really be able to do that, because to try and buy a brand new Ferrari, you have to get vetted by Ferrari. They want to make sure that you're not going to buy it and then resell it. They want to make sure that you have a history of Ferrari ownership. A lot of people who buy Ferraris, they start by buying used ones, then they build up their credential to get towards buying a new one.
What a bunch of malarkey.
Yes.
That's some highfalutin malarkey right there.
It is. But if you're selling, a car like the LaFerrari, which was $3 million, Ferrari wants to make sure that you're not buying it just to have it delivered to your home and then the following year sell it for $4.5 million. Ford, with the Ford GT, in order to buy a brand new Ford GT, the new version, not the older one, you had to submit an essay with a video proclaiming your interest and enthusiasm as a collector. It always helped if you showed that you owned a first series Ford GT, and they made it a requirement that you cannot resell the car until a year after ownership.
Again, highfalutin malarkey.
A lot of falutins.
I'm a big fan of, I like to buy old, like the Fiero and the Stealth. These are cars that were very high in demand when they first came out because they were new, they were different. And now they're even to the point where people look at them and go, what is that? Oh my God, I haven't seen one of those in years. Yeah. And they're cheap now. Not that they're going to be, the quality of these Corvette C8s by any means.
Yeah.
But Adam also has a good point about experts. Tony's business card definitely says car sales expert.
Yes, of course. Tony, very expert.
And then Ray says, I can't fathom what people are paying for collector Nike shoes. They are shoes, for God's sake. It's amazing. That's a whole other industry.
Yes, we could have an entire podcast. In fact, I think people do.
Yes, about the footwear
collector
industry.
Shoe podcasts, and there are all over the world. There are garages and storage lockers filled with collector shoes, Nike shoes, and people pay a lot of money for some of them, thousands of dollars.
You get a first generation Air Jordan. Holy moly!
Oh yeah. Dan says Mark III Cobra replica with a Roush engine is only $76K so far. Yeah. What's really interesting about a lot of these supercars is the Corvette is a very fast car. It's a fantastic performing car. But if I'm not mistaken, Dan, I think your Polestar is probably faster.
Yeah.
So what are people buying? I think it was shown statistically that, I want to make sure I get this correct. So that not the fastest Tesla, but the mid-range performance version of the contemporary Tesla is faster and quicker and better handling and better braking than every single Ferrari built up until I think it was 2015 or 16. That's how a Tesla outperforms almost all Ferraris. So even these vintage Ferraris that people say are the greatest Ferraris ever built, like a GTO, a Ferrari GTO is a $50 million plus car. But for all intents and purposes, Volvo Turbo Wagon is probably quicker and faster, and probably in the right hands handles better.
Jake says the Stingray non-Z06 does 0 to 60 in 2.6.
Okay, is that the electric one, the E-Ray? Because
2.6 seems pretty quick for just a regular Stingray.
I don't know if that's the gas burner that does that. Let's double check that. Jake could be right. He is a Corvette expert, but
he is.
Yeah, but
we can call him a Corvette expert because he does.
Yes, but I thought 2.6 was the E-Ray, and he might be right, but the E-Ray is not out yet.
Oh no, it says here. Oh no, it says the Z06 rockets from 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds.
So the Z06 is 2.6. Wow.
How fast is this is saying Z06. Let me see what it says for just the Stingray. 2.9.
2.9 for the so, and 2.9, I think, isn't that your
No, I'm like 4, 3.9 to 4.
3.9? Okay. So so and thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. 2.8 on a regular basic.
The guys
Screenshot.
on Facebook show screenshots of 2.6 on a Stib Gray. Oh, the Stib Gray. That's a totally different one. The Stib Gray.
Ah,
I love the Stib Gray.
yes.
I know you're cooking right now and you're typing.
So my point here is that it's no longer just about going fast. It used to be that performance was the big deal. So if your car was faster 0 to 60, faster in the quarter mile, all of these things made a difference in the value of your vehicle because going faster was the best possible thing in a sports car. Braking was another big deal. Top speed was another big deal. Road Track used to have, the battle to 200 miles an hour for supercars. All of these things were big deals, but does it matter today? Because whether your car gets to 60 in 3.5 or 2.9, it really doesn't matter as much as it used to. And so the question remains, what matters in a contemporary sports car? And what we're finding with electric cars, it really doesn't cost more to make it faster. So they throw it in. An electric motor can get your car to 60 in under 3 seconds. Okay. But your car has all these other features, all these other things. And how many people are truly going to 60 miles an hour in 3 seconds? I should also point out that if you're not braced for a 3-second launch to 60, you can give yourself whiplash. So you want to make sure that the people that are in your car, yourself included, you're nested against that seat before you hammer that pedal. A 3-second launch to 60 miles an hour is substantial.
Yeah, mine has really good 50 to 70 launch.
Yeah.
As you know, when we're out, driving the highway, you got to get
Yeah.
around somebody really quick, or the on ramp.
Yes. Dan suggests.
Oh yes, for reaching highway speeds, and there's really short freeway on ramps. And then Ray says, "Ugh, I never liked fast. My hands get sweaty."
Well, and
Thanks,
fast is okay under the right circumstance. But I tend to be in Ray's camp because you get that car going too fast and you're not in the right circumstances. And what causes accidents is not speed, it's differential of speed, because you're going 70 and somebody's going 25 and they can't get out of the way fast enough. And a good race car driver will tell you that brakes aren't often the answer. The gas pedal is sometimes the better answer to get out of trouble. But that's on a race course where everybody else is also going 200 miles an hour or 150 or, hitting the corner, and they're trained to hit the corners in the right areas. Drivers doing stupid stuff inside a corner on a racetrack, they don't get invited back to race anymore. So on the streets, that kind of speed is dangerous because of the delta, the variation between speeds. That's what causes accidents.
And my car has a thing called launch mode, where you push your left foot on the brake, and your right foot, you just push the pedal all the way down, and the wheels don't start to spin or anything, and you just let go of the brake, and it just. Yep. I've yet to be able to do it without being like, and hitting the brake. I know my 0 to 30 I can get very, very quick, under 2. Yeah. But we'll have to try that on an episode. We'll have to do do it live.
The old stoplight launch, Jake and Dan, and of course co-host Dan, you guys, we're all familiar with the old stoplight launch. It's Friday night, it's getting late, You line up at the front of the stoplight, and another car comes rumbling up, and the two of you are obviously going to have a little stoplight
Yeah,
race.
you give that look where you're like,
Yep. and you lock up, left foot on the brake, right foot on the gas, and you get ready to roll. And you watch the yellow light on the other side, and when the green hits, boom, you're off. And oftentimes, depending on your car, you're going to manage your wheel spin and whether or not your car will hook up, and off you go. And hopefully there are no police in the area, but those types of stoplight races usually go up to about 50, 60 miles an hour. And assuming the other car is in fair enough distance, the winner backs off and it's understood. Now, if you're in a street race competition where it's set up in some separate location and you're middle of nowhere, get a bunch of people out there and you're rolling, then you're rolling to the finish line, which is standard. And they usually try and mark off a quarter mile, and then you're racing for money.
or pinks. You're racing for pinks.
Yes.
And I'm not talking hot dogs in Los Angeles.
Yes. And we should point out that all of this, of course, is illegal, and we do not recommend nor condone it. We simply are conveying it as part of automotive history, and we've seen
as an expert in automotive history, you're allowed to talk about it. Now, I will admit, when I get to the light, this is at local. A lot of people won't get what I'm talking about. High School Road and 305. They're coming off the ferry.
Yes.
You get there. I pull up, and if a car gets beside me, people don't really even know what a Polestar is. So it's not like I'm sitting there revving or anything.
Right.
And I get somebody that decides they want to try like a BMW.
Yes.
Even there was an M3 the other day that was like, I'm like, I can't do that. Sorry. And he takes off, and I just hit it, and I went right by him with ease. And I'm like, I like that.
And that section is one of the only roadways on the island that has two lanes, and the two lanes neck down to one lane, probably within an eighth of a mile. Would you say, Dan?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. So you can, within an eighth of a mile, your car is going 60 miles an hour, I believe, within an eighth of a mile. So that's pretty exciting.
Jake says I drive like a slow old person on the street. I don't condone street racing at all. Take it to the track.
Jake's absolutely right. People, especially race car drivers, and Jake is an experienced race car driver. He's been professionally trained, several courses in race car driving, and he's been on the racetrack. He has race time. Any experienced race car driver will tell you, save it for the track. Absolutely. That's where it's safest, and that's where you're going to get into the least amount of trouble. Now, it doesn't mean you don't exceed the speed limit if you're on the highway and you're in a hurry to get somewhere, and 65 is the posted speed. You might set your cruise control to 72. I'm guilty of that. But again, if you're on the highway and most cars are going within 5 to 7 miles an hour of your speed, the chance of you encountering danger or potential accident is reduced dramatically. What happens is if you go 35 miles an hour on the highway, that's a problem. If you go 100 miles an hour on a 60 mile an hour highway, also a problem.
Now, going back to speeds for a second, here on our beautiful island, they just lowered the speeds on a bunch of areas.
Yes.
I was happy to see our sunrise along where we live is not changing, except down by Rolling Bay, it'll change.
Yes.
Again, local stuff. A lot of people don't know what we're talking about. But is there any study? I was trying to find a study that says if you go 20 versus 25, you're actually giving off more emissions.
So it's an interesting question. For contemporary gas-burning vehicles, the RPM rate at a higher RPM, generally speaking, does put out more or a higher concentration of potentially bad stuff. Not all bad stuff, but some bad stuff. But a lot depends on how your vehicle is geared. So generally speaking, I don't believe there are studies that show that traffic speed reduction, posted speed reduction, has done nothing to reduce accidents. Unless you have an area that's posted 50 miles an hour and they now change it to 35. That type of change is important because reaction times from 30 to 50 are reduced dramatically. Changing from 35 to 30 or 35 to 25 does not dramatically reduce reaction times for most people on single lane roadways. The biggest challenge with our road, Sunrise, is that it's not wide enough. It hasn't been properly sidewalked, and the road conditions there are very uneven. There's lots of hills and terrain. So in those circumstances, it is somewhat legitimate to suggest a 30-mile-an-hour speed there because of irregular road conditions.
Now, the thing is, too, I can count on one hand how many fatalities have happened since I've lived here.
I'm
in
going
13
to mute
years.
you for just a second. Sorry.
Okay. Raffi's muting for a second. But there have been some very tragic fatalities on the island. The speed limit was not the factor in one of them. Somebody fell asleep. So that had nothing to do with the speed limit. The other one, there were people that were driving extremely fast, like they were almost racing, and they weren't paying attention. They didn't care about the speed limit. It made no difference. Those are the only two I can even think of. Yes, I can think of a couple bikers that were hit, not killed, but they were injured. So that could be an issue. But that's more of an issue to make more bike lanes than to adjust the speed. So those are some of my complaints about it.
Yeah, there's a lot, and cities have access to data that sometimes is put together to favor certain changes, and almost all data has different interpretations. So, and speed is something that as a nation we've struggled with for quite some time. We remember the national speed limit going down to 55 miles an hour because this happened in the 70s to save fuel. Conserve fuel and reduce emissions. The number one reason was, however, to save fuel, because your fuel consumption is improved when you drive at 55. I've actually tested this. It's extremely frustrating. You're on a highway that's speed limited to 65, and if you drive 55 and monitor your fuel consumption, my mile per gallon rate increases, not by a little, by a noticeable amount. And whereas your arrival at the reduced speed rate is only reduced a nominal amount. So it is true that 55 miles an hour will improve your fuel economy for a gas burning vehicle, by the way. I don't believe it changes anything for an electric vehicle, but it is better on the whole.
John says reducing speed is a cheaper alternative to making the correct changes to roads here for safe mix of motor and non-motor users of the road.
Yes, he's absolutely right. From an infrastructural perspective, thank you, John. That's an excellent point. From an infrastructural perspective, the cost of changing the signage is the cheapest way to get the conformity you need for irregular roadways. And, if just on Sunrise Drive alone, which is a 3-mile stretch in our area, if you were to correct that road, it would be millions, maybe even
tens of millions
of dollars to correct that road so that higher speeds could be more safely achieved. So John brings up an excellent point. You just change the signs and lower the speed. Now, for maybe under $100,000, you've got, what do you think, Dan? Maybe 7 signs on Sunrise that change in that length. And let's say every sign costs you $15,000 in services and equipment to change. Now you're done for under $100,000. So
now the problem I had with the whole thing of our city doing it is they paid some company, who knows how much, hundreds of thousands, I'm sure, to do a study.
Yes.
And they used statistics that were from Europe. They used statistics that were from Seattle.
Yes.
And they didn't use statistics that were actually from the island.
Yes.
And they found a study that they found a solution looking for a problem.
Yes, and just to jump in here, John Benjamin, who commented earlier, would tell you the exact same condition. It was cheaper to get the information from an existing study than to initiate a study with our geography, because to host and collect all the data from those from a study, an initiated study, would be very expensive, and then that study would have to be corroborated against other library data associated with similar geographies, and that's obviously problematic from a cost perspective, not to mention the politics associated with selecting the right group, making sure there aren't secondary interests, my uncle's brother's cousin who runs a company that does this, et cetera, he'll get you the best deal, on and on and on. So most cities will go with existing test results or outcomes that have been
but I bet you they spent $200,000 or $300,000 on that study still.
I'm sure they did, but
a speed survey that is usually required by the state to determine your speed limit is you observe, how fast are people going on this street, and if people are going 70 on a road, okay, 70 is a bad example. People are going 40, is 80% of the people are going 40. Then in theory, that should be the speed limit. If there's no impediment, if there's not a ton of accidents, if there's not, a blind curve where people keep going off the edge, you take the statistics and you go, okay, people can safely go 40 on this road. Let's make the speed limit 40.
Yeah.
But they don't do that.
I think what's going to be interesting, if they continue to reduce the speeds on open roadways like Sunrise, I think there are going to be more incidents of road rage or rage-based driving behavior, where people are going 25 miles an hour, and people who are in a hurry or need to
get to the ferry,
need to make the ferry, they're going to pass and they're going to go around the double yellow, and that's going to increase their speed. And then you get into delta speed, which causes you have speed variation, and that delta is more likely to cause an accident.
Now, John, is another thing. Highways use variable speeds with electronic signs on some roads. Could this be done in some of our roads to help quiet traffic during commuting hours?
Huh. That's an excellent suggestion. There are we've seen signage, electronic signage that operates on solar collection, and these are digital signs that will flash that you're going too fast to warn you to slow down. And these are very effective, and they're not very expensive. They have some maintenance costs, of course. Variable speed highway infrastructure involves some more significant survey equipment to be able to judge and predict traffic flows based on flow metrics from hour to hour as cars move through certain checkpoints. The speed and the density are calculated, and then the system projects the speed rate recommended for that area. There is a fair amount of infrastructural costs associated with those things, and I don't think certainly not our community could afford that. Now, there are places where they have manual signage where they have the flip up, and some guy drives by in the morning, flips it up, and during the daytime, you're allowed 40 miles an hour, but then at night, click it, flips down, and it's reduced to 25 miles an hour. Now, this would be less expensive infrastructurally.
But then you got to pay Wally to go out there and flip.
They got to pay, exactly. And he's already a busy man giving tickets for people who park longer than 3 hours in the parking section in town. So
now Adam brought up a question. Did you see Washington's trying to ban right turns at a red light? That is partially true.
Yeah, it's some areas. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, they're trying to make it, and they'll be the first state in the country to get rid of the turn right on red. That's now everywhere in the country.
Right now, the correct term, just to interrupt, I apologize, but I am an expert. It's a free right turn is the terminology. When you are in the right lane and there is a traffic light and that light is red, you are allowed to stop and treat that intersection as though it's a stop sign.
Correct.
So it allows you a free right turn. Now, there are limitations to this for one-way streets and things like that, but generally, nationally, U.S. allows free right turns unless a black and white sign is posted telling you no free right.
No right on red.
Right.
And here's where they're trying to do it. Within 1,000 feet of a childcare center, a public park, a playground, a recreation center, library, public transit center, hospital, or senior center. So
Right.
looking at it as a safety issue. Just put up a sign there that says no right on red.
Right.
Because no one's going to know the law. I mean, to me, this is a dumb law because in these certain situations, you can just put a sign up there that says no right on red if you want to. And you mentioned something. You can make a left on red if you're on a one-way street turning onto another one-way street.
Yeah, traffic school. You have to be on the furthest left to make that free right or free left. And that's one of the problems with the free right turn is that the red light is in your immediate visual proximity. The green light is at the opposite. So what people do is they come to that turn and it's red and they're looking the opposite direction. So they're not looking at the pedestrians that may take the opportunity to step off and get hit. So they're turning.
They would take an opportunity to get hit?
They would take the opportunity to get hit.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm getting the terminology right.
So what happens is on a free right, you are not looking in the right direction. When that light is green and you're taking the right, you are looking in the right direction. So what it does is it effectively forces you to keep your eyes forward, which reduces incidents of pedestrian strike. And look, virtually every reported pedestrian strike on right-hand free right turns are the result of almost 100% of the people say, I didn't see him.
Well, because if you did see him, you wouldn't have hit him.
Well, sometimes you
unless you didn't like the guy.
Sometimes you do see the person, but you don't know that they're stepping off. You see them, you go, oh, they're on the curb, and then you proceed. So,
I see.
But what happens is people look to the left, they assess whether cars are coming from the opposite green side, and then they misjudge that there are pedestrians that are moving. And even if you look to one side, see a pedestrian, look to the other side, and then refocus back, it's been shown that our visual acuity on refocus in rotation is not as accurate as focused straight acuity. So head rotation, and this gets worse the older you get. Your head rotation is limited, it's more limited, and the recoil on the limit, your eyes take a longer time to refocus.
Well, there you go. See, I learned so much from this expert. Did jaywalking laws contribute to more pedestrians getting hit? Are you talking about that stupid game thing that Jay Leno used to do?
So
jaywalking, where he asked people stupid questions.
So John's asking a good question about jaywalking laws. So most laws are, well, traffic-based laws are the most effective when they have the highest saturation of awareness in the community. Where pedestrian laws are problematic is when you have pedestrians that are not aware of either the laws associated with it or the layout, the traffic layout. Some of the most effective pedestrian protection systems in place include something as simple as the red flag in the little buckets when you cross. The more mechanized systems have the push button and then the ground starts flashing the lights to tell oncoming cars stop and let pedestrians pass through. The highest incidence of pedestrian strike is people crossing the streets in a non-marked crosswalk. Curbside strikes are fairly high as well in major cities where you're standing too tight to the road on the curb and mirrors or cars hop the curb and strike. Free right turns, that's a high incidence of strike. The other situation that involves high incidence of pedestrian strike is non-posted corner-to-corner, non-crosswalk sections. And even something as simple as painting crosswalk lines helps to reduce pedestrian strike. What's increased dramatically, especially in rural areas and desirable, let's say, quiet community areas, what's increased is bicycle strikes. And this has happened because bicycle traffic has increased, and most rural type roadways, or let's just call them culturally quaint small communities, don't have proper bike lanes. And it's because the roadways are not designed and built for separate bike lanes, and the infrastructure does not exist to be able to give cyclists the protection they need. E-bikes, which travel at higher rates of speed, are also seeing a spike in not fatalities, but injuries. People, basic rules of safety where they don't wear helmets, and cyclists should always wear helmets, and by the way, also protective riding gear. Same thing with motorcyclists. But bicyclists, pedal cyclists, non-e-assist bicycles, the bike traffic has increased quite a bit. And so what's happened as a result is bicycle strikes have increased as well. And then we can get into the whole other conversation with the largest form of pedestrian and cyclist strikes due to distracted driving. And that is just a reality. It's not just that we have more cyclists out on the roadway. It's that we've got people on cell phones while driving, people distracted by giant colorful screens in their vehicle. And the contemporary vehicles are taller profile, which reduces their visibility on smaller, lower objects. You look at a modern SUV, the hood height is so high relative to your eye line. Your eye line draws a line down from the hood height and then further out to where you can actually see the contact patch on the road. And pretty much an average passing group of school children in a crosswalk, you can't see them in front of your vehicle. And to me, go ahead.
I've seen people riding their bike hands free, like they're texting.
Yes.
Like, how stupid is that person?
Well, is that person any more stupid than someone driving their car and covering a greater level of non-attentive distance by texting or playing with their phone? You take your eyes off the road for even a brief period of time, driving at 30 to 35 miles an hour, and significant things can transpire without you being aware. A great deal of driving is your subconscious awareness. This is true for any kind of movement, even when you're walking. Your subconscious awareness of the environment around you. So you go out for a walk, and our bodies are built with proximity sensors. We can tell sort of what's going on. If someone is approaching us, or if an animal is in the distance or something like that, we're aware of what's happening. If there is a really good pizza stand, we're aware that there is going to be pizza. So we have a tremendous amount of proximity sensibility about us. Now, that's reduced a little when we're driving, but we train ourselves and we cultivate behaviors associated with similar mechanisms in our mental processing, and we apply those to driving. So we can tell that car is moving pretty fast. If I don't hit my brakes now, I'm going to hit them. So we adjust according to that. This takes a while for young people to learn, but eventually they do learn.
And a lot of the cars do it for you.
A lot of the cars do it for you. But if you remove your eyes from the focus for even a split second and then go back to that focus, it takes a while for those sensors to truly adjust what is happening and what could potentially happen in that short or brief period of time. And again, 30, 35 miles an hour, within 1 second, you covered a substantial portion a roadway, virtually unaware of what's happening. And that's okay as long as your mental focus is dedicated to what's happening around you.
Yeah, I've had times where I was driving home from work back in the old days when I worked at the Beaver Valley Mall selling shoes in college. And all of a sudden I'm at my exit. I'm like, I don't remember driving. Like I'm
That's
just
right.
here. It felt like a time jump.
Yeah. And that usually happens at night, where you have that sensation that, oh my gosh, I didn't even, wow, what is it, and what happens is a portion of your mind shuts down because it's evaluating the situation based on potential problems. And if it doesn't sense any potential problems, it's not going to trigger you to a higher alert state. It's like when you sit down to watch a movie on your big screen TV. You might be in the den, and in the den, there's all sorts of things happening around you, but you're unaware of them. In the kitchen, something's happening, you're unaware of it. It's not critical. But if you hear something fall and crash, now you're broken out of that concentration focus, and your proximity sensor now opens up for potential danger. So with the automobile, when you're focused, like when you're on the highway and you're driving and you're just driving 60 miles an hour, your mind is absorbing what it needs to absorb, and it kind of goes to a different state of focus. When danger or potential danger appears, your focus changes.
Well, there you go. Speaking of focus, the show's almost over. We've got two big segments we have to do.
All right.
First, we've got Ray gave us a pretty cool car of the week, so we'll do that real quick.
All right.
Here it is. Now, this is Ray's car of the week for him. And normally I'd be like, ugh, Nissan.
Yeah.
But here's what he says. It's a 2011 all-wheel drive Nissan Murano S. Yes, the transmission is good. Okay.
That's a good question for the Murano.
Yeah, 130,000 miles on it. It was just serviced. It glides like butter. He's got a lot of butter involved in his vehicle. Like this one is $6,250, all fees included.
The Murano was a great, I'm going to say mid-sized, but it may even be classified as a compact.
It depends on if you're renting it. If you're renting it, that's a full size.
That is a full size. Okay.
According to rental companies, because
I think the Murano is a mid-size SUV from a wheelbase and interior volume capacity. But these were great cars. Ray does point out one of the problems they have, which was the transmission. But these are very durable, reliable cars, lots of space inside, and good driving vehicle. 130K is not a lot of miles. You probably get 50 to 80,000 miles trouble-free. Brakes, tires, all the general stuff you're going to have to do no matter what. What it comes down to with a vehicle like this is timing chain, transmission, timing belt or timing chain. I'm not sure on that motor. And alternators, starters, things like that. Alternator on this car might be $300 and some. Starter might be $400 and some. Assuming all your electronics work and everything in the engine management system is proper, $6,000 plus its selling price is quite good.
Yeah, and look, if you look at the back end, it's got a little tow package.
Yeah. Now this might be the tow capacity might only be 3,500 pounds. I don't know if that vehicle has tow capacity to 6,000 pounds, but that would be a good thing to find out.
Yes. Now Jake is already saying that the show's over. Great show, guys. Thank you so much. We got wait till this next thing is, to me, the coolest thing. Raffi's old school is gonna be so cool.
Jake, you got to stick around for old school. You're gonna love it.
They say you save the best for last, and let's save the best for last.
All right. right, today we're going old school with a listing I just posted on Bring a Trailer. This is not what you might see or might think, but it is about as old school as possible. This is an unbelievable collection of 3,000
Well,
Hot Wheels.
2,786.
Well, yes, but that doesn't include the tools and equipment that come with it or the cases. So you've got, let's say, 2,800. And I listed this on Bring a Trailer because it's unprecedented. I've never seen a collection like this. And I've been in scale model cars for close to 40 years. There are not only models in blister packs, there are just hundreds of custom painted ones that the gentleman that built this collection did by hand himself. These are beautifully done. These are not amateur paint jobs with rattle cans. These are beautifully done vehicles. He also has some really nice and rare pickup trucks. He's got some unusual Redline series blister packs. And of course, all of the tools, cases, and some informational packets about the history of some of these cars, collector's books, things like that, all come with. It's an unprecedented collection. Literally plastic bins, 18 plastic bins worth, and lots of cars that have been prepped for paint work. So somebody who's a hobbyist that wants to do some customs of their own in the future. Again, just an unprecedented collection. And so far, the interest has been quite good. People talking about their own memories of collecting Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. Again, if you're a car person, you had a bunch as a kid. I know I did. I still do. And a lot of fun here for somebody who wants to collect and continue to expand their collection.
Yeah, I noticed in some of the comments they're listing certain cars in this collection. Wait, was that the A-Team van? Yes, it is.
Yes, A-Team van. You got a Superbird there. You've got VW Beetles. There's all kinds of customs. And this is just one picture of some of the blister packs. And you've got some special Hot Wheels cased special editions. Just a whole bunch of unbelievable models.
Wow.
And all of this stuff have been, they're the ones that are still in their blister packs, they're in excellent condition. The ones that are loose like that, they have their own cases. Then you've got some other Matchbox and other brand model cars as well. So it's really quite exciting.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it just goes on and on.
And this is a no reserve.
No reserve. And it's currently bid to $700.
That's a bargain.
Yes, right now that's a bargain, because even if you paid $1 per car, which is nothing, it's the deal of the century.
Look at all the mail trucks.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Look at the Corvettes, Jake.
Yeah, there's Corvettes there. A lot of Corvettes, in fact. And look, to amass a collection like this took this gentleman almost 45 years. These are the most valuable ones here, the Hot Wheels, the ones that are classics, the red lines. If you were to try to amass a collection like this, it took him 45 years. You'd be very busy, and you'd have to go about buying at, probably parcels of 20 to 50 models each time, whether you tried to accumulate them via eBay or went to various shows and things like that.
Hey, a Fiero.
Yeah. So to get it all at once here in this, even if you went, if you were a specific collector looking for certain things, if you found 10% in here that you wanted, it's worth buying and then reselling the rest later so that you can complete part of your collection.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
I'm only on picture 83. There's 108 pictures.
Yes. We did the best job we could documenting and getting all the, we tried to put together an Excel spreadsheet with single car, but it was just a nightmare. After doing 100 cars, like, this is insane. So we tried to do them in categories and just, feature them and sort them and look at the tools. The tools alone are amazing. Just
Wow.
they're specialized tools to be able to work on these model cars. People think making model cars is a simple thing. It's a pretty complicated thing to do. And to do it properly, do it right, so where the pieces look beautiful. It's
a whole parts department.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Holy crap! Look at this.
Yeah, it's quite a collection.
Somebody's got a drug problem.
The guy knew what he was doing, and spent a lot of time putting it all together. Sadly, he had passed away, and we had the opportunity to purchase from his estate. And so we're putting it out there for collectors to enjoy.
Now, do you have titles for all these cars?
Yes. and all the air conditioning blows cold.
I'm just curious what some of the comments are.
Yeah, read through.
Is he still with us? Like to know what profession he was. It's a wrecking yard, but for tiny people. I feel a bit for the owner's collector. I hope the final bid eases the pain. Oh, he's not feeling any pain anymore. Got it. Need it. Got it. Need it.
Yeah.
Gotta love Bring a Trailer.
Yeah.
Service history, IMS bearings on Porsche models.
Yep. And I actually responded to that already. Oh, interesting. It doesn't have you might want to refresh your screen. Yeah, because some new comments have definitely come in, including mine, which should have been posted.
There you go. Thanks everyone who's commented so far. This was a very dedicated 50 years.
Yeah.
As you may know, I'm an expert. I've seen collectors of 1,000, but this near 3,000 piece, truly unique. If you win, I will make a standing scaled version of Jay for you, painted light jean colored shirt, dark jean colored pants, and white hair.
I almost said at the end of that comment, there are no steam powered cars in this collection, but I decided not to.
Because there might be.
Yes.
Don't burn your face. All the Porsche models on the scale lift took care of the IMS in Matchbox scale. It's funny. Do you have a guess what this will end up at? Since it's no reserve, I'm going to guess this is going to go over $3,000.
I think over $3,000 is the target. I think that seems like it would be about right, given the collector market. The only way it would be more is if someone recognized one or two or three particular vehicles that are worth hundreds, and had to have them, and then they buy it and they cherry pick out what they want and come ahead. It's possible this could go to $5,000. That wouldn't be out of the question. But $3,000 seems to be about the right, where it should be. So we'll know.
You have another car up here real quick since we went over anyway. By the way, we're going to skip next week. We're not going to be doing a show. I will be in Pittsburgh. We're doing a screening of the sitcom.
Yes.
At the Lindsay Theater in Sewickley, Pennsylvania. And I will be in Pittsburgh. So I will not be here. Raffi's decided he wants the week off as well.
Take the week off.
Now I'm familiar with this car.
Yes.
It is a 74 Oldsmobile Cutlass Salon Coupe.
Yes.
It only has 46,000 miles.
Yeah. This is an all original car, original paint, original interior, original engine. It's quite unusual to find a salon in this condition. The more typical is the Supreme. But the Salon is very desirable because it's a column shift car. It has the old 442 suspension. It's a
floor shift car.
I'm sorry, it's a floor shift. Thank you, Dan. Yeah. I apologize.
Just as we're looking at a picture of the floor shift.
Console shift is what I meant to say, but thank you. And it's a 350 V8, and it's unusual that you'd find a car this original. So it is a reserve auction. So the owners do have a reserve, but we'll see where it ends.
Yeah, I mean, it is in gorgeous condition. Not the most popular color combination.
No, but
that'll probably hurt it a little bit.
Yeah, I think if this thing was red with a black vinyl top and red interior, or it would get a lot more attention. But it is what it is. So the person who buys this car is going to buy for its originality, and they'll probably get into it, detail the engine compartment, really make it because the engine itself, the engine compartment, is original. It's never been restored. But somebody may want to bring it up to a higher level of finish to match the exterior, because the exterior and the interior are just fantastic. Really nice.
Yeah. If this thing has a working 8-track, I'm bidding.
Yeah.
Me likes Colonial Creme on Colonnade.
Yes. And Colonnade is what they call this era where General Motors, from 74 to about 80, where they had this sort of very classic upright sort of traditional look that they built into their designs. That was an era, the Colonnade in era, which is recognized as something that people actually specifically collect.
Yeah. Well, best of luck on this one.
Thank you.
It is a good looker. And, I subscribe to your YouTube channel, so I get to see your videos before the cars are listed.
That's right. And there's one coming up. I've got one. Actually, I have two coming up.
You have a nice yellow car coming up.
Yes.
Saw the video for that. Looks amazing.
Yes.
And a black car coming up.
Yes, indeed.
And hopefully we'll get this white Dodge Stealth up soon.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to sell during the summer. We'll wait till the spring and summertime, and we'll get that going.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. The Aradan Film Festival Monday night will be Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Nice.
We're on old school for the double feature.
Wow.
So tune in for that on Monday night. And again, we will not be here next week. So enjoy your following week. We'll see you in 2 weeks, basically.
There you go.
And then there's a week where I'm going to be out of the country, actually, on spring break. So we're going to have a couple of off days. That'll be April Fool's Day.
As experts, we're allowed.
We're allowed. April Fool's Day, which is also my wife's birthday, we will not be doing a show.
No show on April Fool's Day.
No, because I will not. I will be out of the country. And I don't want to do the math to figure out what 10 a.m. here is.
All right. We'll see you at the next show.
All right, everybody. Let's play our little old guy wiping his car down.